The Montana Secretary of State's office said Tuesday that they're preparing to mail out ballots to state lawmakers, asking them whether they want to sustain Governor Greg Gianforte's veto of Senate Bill 442. But Secretary of State Christy Jacobson also included a letter expressing reservations about the poll taking place. The battle over SB 442 and its implications for the separation of powers has now dragged on for almost a year. The bill would have redirected some marijuana tax revenue to fund rural roads and wildlife habitat projects. Gianforte vetoed it on the last day of the legislative session, around the time one of the legislature's two chambers adjourned, and supporters said there was no real chance for lawmakers to try to get a two-thirds vote to enact the bill over his veto. Earlier this year, a district judge in Helena ordered state leaders to go forward with a veto override poll, saying the governor would otherwise have exerted too much control over the legislative process. Last week, the Montana Supreme Court denied Gianforte's request for a stay, saying there would be no irreparable harm from letting a poll go forward before the court reached a final ruling on his appeal. On Monday, Gianforte sent Jacobson a letter saying in an attempt to comply with the courts, he was forwarding a copy of his veto message. At the same time, Senate President Jason Ellsworth, Majority Leader Steve Fitzpatrick, and 26 other Senate Republicans signed on to a letter saying the court's decisions had severely overstepped into the legislature's authority over its own procedures.
I think to a certain degree, the courts probably think that, wow, they're helping us out. Maybe they are, but I don't really feel that way. I feel like it's an invasion of the separation of powers, and it's really an invasion of what we're supposed to do. If there's problems with how bills are getting processed or whether a veto needs to be made, we can solve it. We don't need the judicial branch stepping in and saying what we're supposed to do.
The signers said they either wouldn't participate in a poll or would vote no. If 50 lawmakers vote against an override or don't return their ballot, the veto would stand. Ellsworth said it was inappropriate for the executive branch to hold a poll when they don't have the actual physical bill in their possession.
The bill is here in my possession, as it always has been. The question should have always just been asked, where is the bill?
In a letter she attached to the legislators' ballots, Jacobson said she shared those frustrations about the process, but she was hopeful the Supreme Court would thoroughly consider the issues, even as the poll goes forward. The Secretary of State says lawmakers will have until April 18th to return their ballots, and again, not returning a ballot would have the same effect as voting no. But regardless of the poll's outcome, the real question will be what the Montana Supreme Court eventually decides. In Helena, Jonathan Amberian, MTN News.